Lord, twice I put my faith in you and twice.
Ever wondered why the lives of many country music stars ended so tragically early? The genre has long been associated with sadness and loss, so it's no surprise that many artists in the genre fell victim to sudden misfortune. From untimely deaths to struggles behind fame, many faced unexpected fates. These stories of untimely departures reveal the harsh realities intertwined with success, leaving fans to question what truly lies behind the glitz. Curious to know the heartbreaking tales behind these legends? Come along as we uncover the 30 most tragically shocking ways country music stars have died. Number 30. Dotty West. Nothing could be heart-wrenching than losing a life while trying to reach the stage. That is how Dotty West's story ended. She was a Grammy winner, a member of the Country Music Hall of Fame, and for many, she was the most beloved woman in country music during her time. From performing the Coca-Cola jingle, Country Sunshine, to releasing hits like A Lesson in Leavin', she made her mark both as a solo artist and duet partner. She also supported new voices striving to succeed. Yet, behind the fame, she faced struggles. Growing up poor in a household with 10 children, she once picked cotton and sugarcane to help her family. The late 1980s brought divorce and significant financial trouble. Still, she continued to plan a return to the spotlight. On August 30, 1991, her car broke down while she was heading to perform at the Grand Ole Opry. Her elderly neighbor offered to drive her, if only she knew that would be the end for her. Her neighbor crashed the car on the way, leaving West with severe internal injuries. She died 5 days later in the hospital. She was just 58. Number 29. Paty Klene. Just before Dotty West gained recognition in country music, there was Paty Klene. She became the first female solo artist to be inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. Born Virginia Patterson Hensley, she entered the music scene with unwavering determination. Hardships marked her early career. Money was scarce, and success came slowly. In 1957, she experienced a small breakthrough with Walkin' After Midnight, but soon slipped back into near silence. Her turning point came in 1961. That year, while her song I Fall to Pieces climbed the charts, she nearly died in a serious car crash. She remained in the hospital with broken bones, enduring pain, yet her fame only grew stronger. She followed up with hit songs like Crazy and performed at some of the biggest events in country music. Still, her time in the spotlight was brief. On March 5, 1963, Klene was flying back from a charity show in Kansas City. She had performed to support a disc jockey's family after he died in a car accident. As the plane approached Nashville, the weather turned turbulent. It crashed, resulting in Klene's death at the age of 30. Also lost were the pilot, Cowboy Copas, and Hawkshaw Hawkins. Her life had soared and sunk like the very songs she sang. Nevertheless, she is not the only country star who died while flying. Here is another star. Number 28. Troy Gentry. A helicopter crash is sudden, violent, and anyone hardly anticipates it. In recent years, many have followed news of such disasters, including the crash that ended the life of basketball star Kobe Bryant in January 2020 and the tragic death of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi in 2024. However, country music singer Troy Gentry experienced a similar ending even earlier. On September 8, 2017, Gentry, aged 50, accepted a helicopter ride before a planned concert in Medford, New Jersey. The venue provided the flight, and Gentry chose to participate. However, during the ride, the helicopter lost power. The subsequent crash was later attributed to pilot error. The pilot died at the scene. Gentry initially survived the crash, but his injuries were too severe. He died soon after at a hospital. Gentry made music as one half of the duo Montgomery Gentry. He and Eddie Montgomery built a career with songs such as Roll With Me, Something to Be Proud Of, and If You Ever Stop Loving Me. After the crash, Montgomery rode with his friend to the hospital and saw him in his last hours. He later told People magazine that the day broke something in him. "A little piece of my soul got lost there," he said. "The moment never left him. It is going to be in my mind and my soul for the rest of my life." Number 27. Keith Gatis. The phrase tractor accident evokes sufficient imagery on its own, requiring little elaboration. This was the extent of what the public learned about the death of country artist and producer Keith Gatis. Gatis was recognized not only as a performer, but also as a talented producer and songwriter. Born in Johnson City, Texas, he later moved to Nashville after completing his college education. He initially pursued a career as a recording artist, releasing a self-titled album in 1996. However, it was his work behind the scenes that gained recognition. He contributed to songs for artists such as Sarah Evans and Waylon Payne. He played guitar, wrote tracks, and participated in the touring scene when called upon. Gatis was 52 years old when he died in a tractor accident at his home on April 23, 2023. Those who knew him throughout his long career in Nashville gave him a send-off that reflected his deep roots in the city. The Brooklyn Bowl tribute concert held in his honor featured an impressive lineup of performers, including Sheryl Crow and George Strait. Number 26, Jake Flint.
Country singer Jake Flint unexpectedly died over the weekend, just hours after getting married in Oklahoma.
Dying in your sleep may sound peaceful, but it depends on a person's age. When a young person passes away this way, especially just after a joyful moment, the shock can be unbearable for those left behind. Jake Flint, an Oklahoma red dirt country singer, died at 37 in his sleep on the night of his wedding, November 26, 2022. His new wife, Brenda, expressed her grief in a message filled with pain. She wrote that instead of looking at wedding pictures, she had to choose burial clothes for her husband. Her words vividly conveyed the weight of the loss. She felt broken and helpless. Flint's interest in music developed early, encouraged by his father. He blended the bluegrass traditions of his region with a wide range of rock styles, creating a sound that was entirely his own. Those who collaborated with him stated that he was skilled in more than just music. He was adept in media and frequently assisted others, never hoarding his knowledge. Despite releasing 4 albums, he never saw them gain the recognition they deserved before his life came to an end. Wondering about the cause of his death? It was accidental alcohol poisoning, intensified by untreated heart disease. Number 25, Jimmie Rodgers. The story of Jimmie Rodgers ended in a way that felt both cruel and strangely full circle. The illness that took his life was the same one that had driven him toward music in the first place. Before he achieved fame, Rodgers worked on the railroads. He had music inside him, but it was not his primary occupation. That changed in 1924 when he was diagnosed with tuberculosis. From that moment on, he devoted himself entirely to music, realizing that hard labor was no longer an option. He moved to Texas, partly for his health, and began crafting a sound that drew from blues, jazz, and even yodeling. By 1928, Rodgers had become one of the biggest names in music. Songs like Blue Yodel and Waiting for a Train turned him into a national figure. His body was growing weaker, but he still toured often and recorded as much as he could. He was known to bring a folding bed into the studio so he could rest between takes. He did not slow down until he had no choice. On May 26, 1933, Rodgers died in a New York hotel room after a hemorrhage. He was just 35 years old. Number 24, Tammy Winnette. Tammy Winnette died in her sleep on April 6, 1998. She was 55. The cause was initially reported as a blood clot in her lung. That alone was sad enough, but what happened afterward made it even worse. Winnette was one of the biggest names in country music. She earned awards, had hit records, and even collaborated with an electronic group called the KLF, demonstrating that she was not afraid to step outside of country music. Her song, Justified and Ancient, showcased her voice in a very different style. Nonetheless, she had long struggled with health problems. So, even though her death came suddenly, some were not entirely shocked.
She's too young. She's just 55.
She was in so much pain, and we knew she took medication at home.
In the year following her passing, her daughters filed a lawsuit. They claimed that her 5th husband, George Ritchie, and her doctor, Wallace Marsh, had not provided proper care for her. They held them responsible for her death and sought over $50 million in damages. As part of the case, Winnette's body was exhumed not once, but twice. First in 1999, and then again in 2001.
Tammy's death certificate gives the cause as heart failure, but a year after she died, her body was exhumed.
Doctors discovered that she had died of cardiac arrhythmia, not merely a blood clot. After years of tension, the case concluded in 2002. Ritchie was removed from the lawsuit, while the daughters and Marsh reached a private settlement. Number 23, Ira Louan. Ira Louan and his brother Charlie grew up in challenging times, but they transformed their struggles into music. Known as the Louan brothers, they gained a following in country circles after dropping their real last name, Loudermilk, and adopting the simpler name Louan in 1947. Their music stood out because of their harmonious singing. They could switch who sang high or low so smoothly that listeners often could not distinguish between them. Their sound left a lasting impact on many future artists, including the Everly Brothers. Even with their talent, the brothers never quite reached the top. Part of the reason was Ira's behavior. His drinking caused problems on the road and backstage, upsetting venue owners and even provoking the anger of performers like Elvis Presley, who shared some tour dates with them. The Louan brothers continued to perform together until 1963. That year, Ira's third wife shot him multiple times, claiming it was self-defense. She stated that he had attempted to strangle her. Ira survived the shooting, but the group did not last through the year. After their split, Ira released one solo album. On June 20th, 1965, while riding in a car, a drunk driver crashed into the vehicle. The collision resulted in his death. Ira Louan was 41 years old. Number 22, Luke Bell.
New details regarding a country singer who was found dead on the east side back in August.
Luke Bell was born in 1990 and belonged to a younger wave of country artists. His music had a honky-tonk feel, and while he had not yet become a household name, his work was gaining increasing attention. That path ended suddenly on August 20th, 2022, during a stop in Tucson, Arizona. Luke was traveling with his friend, Matt Kinman. According to Kinman, they stopped over to get food. When Kinman returned to the truck, Luke was gone. He just took off, Kinman told Saving Country Music. He was in the back of the truck. I went in, came back, and he had left. No one knew where he had gone. Kinman thought he might still be nearby, but also admitted it was possible Luke had jumped a freight train and vanished into the distance. The uncertainty hung in the air for 9 days. Then the search ended in the worst way. Luke's body was found not far from where he had disappeared. For years, Luke had lived with bipolar disorder. He had recently started a new prescription, and this change may have contributed to his death. The cause of death was ruled an accidental overdose of fentanyl. He was 32 years old. Number 21, John Denver.
Monterey County, California tonight, trying to determine the cause of an accident that killed John Denver.
Most people who know anything about music from the 1970s will likely know the name John Denver. Even those who do not might recognize one of his songs. Annie's Song, Rocky Mountain High, and Take Me Home Country Roads are still played across generations. He also wrote Leaving on a Jet Plane, which became a major hit for Peter, Paul, and Mary. His music blended various styles, and his voice conveyed a warmth that made his songs resonate with listeners long after they first heard them. Outside of music, Denver had a keen interest in flying. He was licensed to operate a variety of aircraft. However, on October 12, 1997, he took off from Monterey Bay in California in a small experimental fiberglass airplane. The flight ended in tragedy. The plane went down in the water, and Denver passed away instantly. He was 53 years old. The crash was so violent that fingerprint identification was necessary to confirm his identity. The aircraft had been built by someone else who had made changes to the original design. One of those changes was the location of the fuel tank switch, which had been placed in a hard-to-reach spot behind the pilot's seat. It is believed that when Denver tried to switch fuel tanks during flight, he lost control of the plane, resulting in a fierce crash. Number 20, Tom T. Hall.
Last night, Hall of Fame singer-songwriter Tom T. Hall died at the age of 85.
Tom T. Hall died in August of 2021. He was 85 years old and passed away at his home just outside Nashville. At the time, no cause of death was revealed to the public. It was only months later that more information became available. A report from the medical examiner revealed that Hall had died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. The news came as a shock to many who admired his long career in country music. Hall had built a strong reputation as a storyteller, known for writing songs that felt like short stories set to music. He had been respected for decades, both for his performances and for the songs he had written for others. But until his passing, no one knew he battled personal demons. Number 19, Mindy McCreaty.
News overnight on country music star Mindy McCreaty, dead at 37.
Mindy McCreaty broke into country music in 1996 and seemed poised for a strong career. Her early songs gained attention, and she was seen as someone with real promise. However, behind the scenes, her personal life was unraveling. Substance issues, volatile relationships, and persistent disputes with her record labels drew her away from music. The setbacks piled up, and over time, her presence in the music world diminished. McCreaty was 37 years old when her life ended. On February 17, 2013, she died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound at her home in Arkansas. The news stunned those who remembered her early career and the voice that once filled arenas. Her death came after years of personal pain that had often played out in public. Her story became one more reminder of how quickly fame can vanish when everything off stage begins to fall apart. Number 18, David Stringbean Ackerman. David Stringbean. Ackerman was one of the early faces of country music. Known for his humor, banjo playing, and long, thin frame, he was a regular at the Grand Ole Opry and later appeared on Hee Haw. He brought joy to audiences across the country with his music and stage presence. On the night of November 10, 1973, after performing at the Opry, Stringbean and his wife, Estelle, returned home. What awaited them was something no one could have imagined. The couple was shot and killed by robbers who had broken into their home. The killers were motivated by cash, as rumors suggested that Stringbean kept large sums of money hidden on the property. Number 17, Hank Williams. Hank Williams died on January 1, 1953. He was 27 years old. His health had deteriorated due to years of drinking and drug use. The official cause of death was a heart attack. Over time, many have suggested that a combination of alcohol and morphine caused the heart attack. That mix may have stopped his heart. The exact truth about what transpired in the final hours of his life is still not fully understood. His death remains one of country music's greatest unsolved stories. Number 16, Keith Whitley. Keith Whitley was regarded as one of the brightest rising stars in country music when he died in 1989. The news of his death on May 9th that year shocked the music world. When it became clear that alcoholism was the root cause, the reaction was even stronger. His struggle with drinking was something many in the industry were already aware of. Reports indicate he spent the weekend drinking heavily. He was found at home, still dressed and lying face down on the floor, but gone due to alcohol poisoning. He was only 33 years old. Number 15, Gary Stewart. Gary Stewart found success in the 1970s with several country songs. His best-known hit was She's Actin' Single, I'm Drinkin' Doubles, which came out in 1975. He died on December 16, 2003, from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. His death came less than 1 month after his wife of more than 40 years died from pneumonia. The truth is, not everyone can live alone after the death of a lifetime partner. Number 14, Ricky Nelson. Ricky Nelson was one of 7 people who died on New Year's Eve in 1985 when a fire broke out inside the private plane carrying him and his band. The fire is believed to have started due to a faulty heater inside the cabin. The plane was a Douglas DC-3, built in the mid-1940s. It had once belonged to other well-known performers, including Jerry Lee Lewis. The crash also killed members of Nelson's band, his fiancée Helen Blair, and his sound technician, Donald Clark Russell. Nelson was 45 years old. Number 13, Hawkshaw Hawkins. Hawkshaw Hawkins' honky-tonk and boogie-style country music career came to an end on March 5, 1963. He was one of the passengers on the same plane that crashed, killing Patsy Cline and Cowboy Copas. Hawkins was a regular on the Grand Ole Opry and frequently performed on the country music show Ozark Jubilee. He was married to country singer Gene Shepard, who was expecting their 3rd child at the time of the crash. Hawkins, Cline, and Copas were flying back to Nashville from a performance in Kansas City. The private plane went down in rough weather near Camden, Tennessee, resulting in the loss of everyone on board. It was truly a sad day for the country music genre. Nevertheless, he was not the last country musician to die in a plane crash. The following year, another legend fell victim to a similar fate. Number 12. Jim Reeves. Jim Reeves was one of the best-known voices in country music during the 1950s and 1960s. He played a significant role in shaping what became known as the Nashville sound. By the time of his death, he had already secured his place as one of the genre's most respected names at the age of 40. So, how did he die? In July of 1964, Reeves was flying a small plane with his pianist and business partner, Dean Manuel. They were returning to Nashville from Batesville, Arkansas. As they flew near Brentwood, Tennessee, they encountered a thunderstorm. The severe weather caused the plane to crash. Several country musicians, including Marty Robbins and Ernest Tubb, assisted in the search for the missing plane. The search concluded when the bodies of Reeves and Manuel were found in the wreckage. Number 11. Nolan Neil. Country singer. Nolan Neil gained recognition after appearing on The Voice in 2016. He joined Adam Levine's team during the season, but was ultimately eliminated from the competition. Neil openly discussed his struggles with substances and alcohol, never concealing the toll they had taken on his life. In July of the year 2022, Neil died. After examining his body, authorities found morphine, methamphetamine, fentanyl, and acetylfentanyl. They ruled that his death was an accidental overdose. He was 41 years old. Number 10. Bla1 Foley. Bla1 Foley was not widely known to the public, but he held a steady place in the Austin, Texas country music scene. He was known for his outlaw style and sharp sense of humor. He was also a close friend of Townes Van Zandt, another respected name in that genre. On February 1st, 1989, Foley was shot in the chest and killed by a man named Cary January. The shooting followed an argument during which Foley accused January of stealing his father's pension and welfare checks. The case went to court, but January was acquitted as the ruling was self-defense. Number 9. Kylie Ray Harris. Kylie Ray Harris was a singer and songwriter who was well known and respected in the Texas country music scene. She had a loyal base of supporters, although her adult life involved long struggles with alcohol. On September 4, 2019, Harris was driving when she crashed her car into an oncoming vehicle at high speed. The crash killed her and the other driver. A toxicology report later showed her blood alcohol level was 3 times the legal limit. She was just 30 years old. Number 8. Jeremy Tepper. Jeremy Tepper died on June 14, 2024. He was 60 years old. His wife, singer Laura Cantrell, shared the news on social media, claiming he died from a heart attack. Over the years, Tepper has worked in various areas of the music industry. He started as a singer, then transitioned to writing, and eventually took on leadership roles behind the scenes. Most recently, he served as the program director for the Outlaw Country channel on Sirius XM. Sirius XM released a message after his death, stating that he played an important role in building both Outlaw Country and Willie's Roadhouse. They described him as a steady force who cared deeply about the music. Stevie Van Zandt also wrote about Tepper, calling him a good friend and someone who handled a very complex radio format with great care and skill. He expressed that it was a painful loss and offered sympathy to Tepper's wife and family. According to Variety, Tepper had long been associated with the country music industry. He first made a name for himself as the lead singer of the world-famous Blue Jays. In 1990, he helped launch the record label Diesel Only. He also worked as a music critic for Pulse magazine and served as the editor for the Journal of Country Music. Since 2004, he has been responsible for programming at Outlaw Country. Additionally, he collaborated with other channels at Sirius XM, including Willie's Roadhouse and Road Dog Trucking. Number 7. Toby Keith.
We're going to turn now to country music singer-songwriter Toby Keith, passing away overnight at just 62 years old.
Toby Keith died on February 5, 2024, after battling stomach cancer. He was 62. The news brought sadness to many, especially because of how he had remained strong during such a difficult fight. In the final days of his life, he spoke with News 9 in Oklahoma. He appeared thinner and weaker than before, yet he still found the strength to openly discuss his experiences. He talked about cancer, fear, and death. He indeed found comfort in his beliefs. If there is anything to hold on to after losing someone like him, perhaps it is the way he faced the end. He had faith, and it gave him strength. It brought him peace. Number 6, Naomi Jud.
Well, tonight tributes are pouring in for country music legend Naomi Jud, who died unexpectedly over the weekend.
Naomi Jud was a country singer and actress from the United States. In 1980, she formed a music duo with her daughter Winona, whose birth name is Christina Claire. They called themselves the Judds. Together, they became one of the most recognized acts in country music, winning 5 Grammy Awards and 9 Country Music Association Awards. Naomi died by suicide in 2022, just a day before she and Winona were set to be honored with an induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame. For years, Naomi spoke about her struggles with mental health. Still, her death on April 30th, 2022 came as a shock to many. She died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. She was 76 years old. Number 5, Justin Townes Earl. Justin Townes Earl was an American singer, songwriter, and musician. He began his career with an extended play titled Yuma in 2007 and went on to release 8 full-length albums. He earned recognition from the Americana Music Association, winning Emerging Artist of the Year in 2009. 2 years later, he received Song of the Year for Harlem River Blues. His father, Steve Earle, is a well-known name in alternative country music. Justin struggled with substance use and alcohol for much of his adult life, following in his father's footsteps. He entered rehabilitation multiple times, yet the battle continued. On August 20th, 2020, he was found dead in his apartment. The cause of death was determined to be an accidental overdose involving alcohol, cocaine, and fentanyl. He was 38 years old. Number 4, Kyle Jacobs. Kyle Christopher Jacobs was an American country music songwriter, singer, guitarist, and pianist. He worked as a staff writer for Curb Music beginning in the year 2003 and continued with them until his death in February 2023. He wrote songs using both piano and guitar. He hailed from Bloomington, Minnesota. Jacobs helped write Garth Brooks's song, More Than a Memory, which became the first country single to debut at number 1 on Billboard's chart. He also shared writing credit for Eighth World Wonder, a song by Kimberly Locke that reached the top 10. He worked in Nashville as a songwriter and producer. He was married to singer Kelly Pickler. On February 17, 2023, Kyle Jacobs died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, leaving his fans and friends stunned and with many unanswered questions. Number 3, Graham Parsons.
He snuck into the Byrds.
Graham Parsons significantly shaped country rock during his time with the Byrds and the Flying Burrito Brothers. His subsequent solo work brought Emmylou Harris into the public eye, initiating a long run of music that followed his ideas. On September 19, 1973, Parsons died from a mix of drugs and alcohol. He was 26 years old. After his death, his close friend and road manager, Phil Kaufman, took his body without permission. Kaufman drove it to Joshua Tree National Park and set it on fire, stating it was what they had promised each other they would do. Number 2, Mel Street. Mel Street was born near Grundy, Virginia. Some records indicate that he was born in 1933, which his family considers to be accurate. However, his gravestone shows the year as 1936. He began performing on radio shows throughout Western and Central Virginia, as well as West Virginia, at the age of 16. Later, he worked as an electrician at a radio tower in Ohio. He also sang at nightclubs around Niagara Falls, New York. In 1963, he returned to West Virginia and opened an auto body shop. During the 1970s, he had several country hits. However, offstage, he struggled with clinical depression and alcohol issues. On October 21, 1978, the day he turned 45, Mel Street died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Number 1, Wayne Mills. Wayne Mills was the frontman of the Wayne Mills Band, a group known for playing outlaw country music across the country. His music touched many lives, and he spent years traveling from town to town with his band. On November 23, 2013, he was shot and killed inside a bar in downtown Nashville. The shooting occurred following an argument with the bar owner, Chris Farrell. Wayne Mills was 44 years old at the time of his death. Chris Farrell was later found guilty of second-degree murder and sentenced to 20 years in prison. There you have it. 30 country music stars who passed away in less pleasant ways. What was common among them was substance abuse and self-inflicted wounds. Why do you think people who have achieved fame would take their lives? Let's hear from you in the comments. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.